Yeah, all right. So my name is Bruce Soord from a band from the UK called The Pineapple Thief. Um, and we got a new album. It's actually came out this week called It Leads to This. And well, you can stream it, buy it, whatever now.
Beautiful, mate. Thanks for joining us today, Bruce.
That's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
So, as you say, mate, the Pineapple Thief released your latest album. It leads to this back on February the 9th. Like, I know it's only been a week or so, mate, but how's the early reception been for it?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, and you know what it's like. You can't hide from the reaction nowadays with social media, so you get to see everything. Yeah, it's been really positive. So thank goodness for that, because the internet and online can be quite brutal sometimes, but we've been saved so far.
So far. And the album essentially tells the story of you looking back and fearing for the world your children are going to inherit, mate. So it's a great idea for an album. Where did it come from?
It's kind of I've always sort of written about things that I wake up in the morning and how I feel. So you put the news on, you look out the window. I live in a small town in southwest of England. It's got its fair share of problems. Drugs, alcohol. Look out the window and you see it. You see these lost souls walking around. You read the news, it's just getting worse and worse. And then you look at your kids and you think, I look at the world through I like my kids are a lens to the world. And I think, oh shit, what's going on? And then you go and pick up a guitar and it just that's the inspiration. But the thing about it is, even though it's all that kind of dark thoughts about the future and what the hell are my kids going to inherit, it's still positive. It's still a positive message. It's not all doom, not all doom and gloom.
Was it like I can understand what you're saying about writing about the things that are going on around you in the world, but when you bring your kids into it and like say looking at the world that they're going to inherit, like did that make it a bit more difficult because it was a more personal sort of nature?
Yeah, I guess I know I've been doing the Pineapple Thief for 25 years. I've always done it like that. I've always written about this, the really sort of personal things, because it kind of that's what really gets you inspired. You pick up a guitar and you just want to go or when I'm sort of there's a few tracks in there which have got some really quite heavy whammy bar like guitar solos on, and that was when I was just wanted to be really aggressive, because I felt, you're kind of having those feelings inside. So yeah, it's really good, to be honest. It's good songwriting, fodder.
Now, the press release calls it an album of 8 differing masterpieces. So I want to do something a little bit different here, mate. I want to run through those 8 masterpieces individually, and I get you to elaborate on them a little bit for us. So
All right.
we'll
Yeah.
start with the first track, Put It Right.
Put it right. I just want to say I did not write that press release. I did not call our own track masterpieces.
Sure.
I'm happy for them to be called masterpieces, but yeah. So Put It Right was the first song that we wrote for the record, and that was in the lockdown. And I remember it was deep lockdown, so the town was dead, the sky was clear blue, no airplanes. And I got my studio in the garden, and I just picked up my guitar, and that was it. That was the inspiration, and it was kind of like, oh my god, how this tiny little virus that has caused the world to shut down almost overnight, and how delicate, obviously the world is. All obvious stuff. It's obvious stuff, but hopefully people can relate to. And then that's what it was about. It was about like, we can still put it right as humans, not just about the world, but about personal relationships, all kinds of stuff.
Then you've got Rubicon.
Yeah, so Rubicon is a weird one. So I wrote that with Gavin Harrison. He's a drummer. And we actually, so this was after the lockdown. We were all free, and Gavin said to me, "Do you know what, Bruce? Let's get in the same room and write, as opposed to what a lot of bands do nowadays, which is, writing in their studios, home studios, sending the files off, and blah blah blah." I thought, it's just you losing that kind of human interaction. So I went to Gav's for a couple of weeks, and that was one of the first songs that we wrote. And he came up with this drum beat, and it's in a 5/4 shuffle. Don't ask me what the hell a 5/4 shuffle is, but I kind of just got it and played this sort of heavy riff on a really low baritone electric guitar. I've got a 6-string baritone, which I wrote most of the record on, so it's got this really low, sinister feel. And but that song is actually inspired by Julius Caesar. That's why it's called Rubicon. It's about Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon and destroying the Roman Republic for his own selfish, ambition. And only because I looked at the current world and thought, well, it's just history repeating itself. So that's that one.
Right. And then you got the title track, It Leads to This.
Yeah, so that was a similar one, to put it right, in the same sort of writing sessions. That was a lockdown song, and it really, that one is a love song. It's quite, it's sort of, it's really based around the sort of this bass hook, but there's a line in it about when I say, for all this time I didn't notice you, and that's about for me personally, my wife, but it's basically the message is that you spend, life is so hectic, life passes you by so quickly that before you know it, you look back on your life and you think, shit, I didn't actually spend enough time on the important things. Like, it's that kind of deathbed regret thing. The top 10, number one is always, I wish I spent more time with my family and I didn't work so hard. Again, it's really obvious stuff, really obvious, but I don't think we think about it enough.
Until we're dying.
Yeah.
Next up is The Frost.
So The Frost, again, that was and it was frosty. I looked out in my garden, it was a frost, and then it was very frosty. And then we put the albums together. I thought, actually, The Frost is actually a nice name. Actually, it's got a story behind it, a history, so that's why it's called The Frost. And yeah, it was just one of those songs where I just came up with this hook and this riff, and the whole song just sort of came out. And that's it's one of the heavier, sort of rockier tunes on the record.
And we've got All That's Left.
Yeah, so All That's Left, that was, again, a similar vibe, to put it right, in that there's a line in there that says, all that's left to figure out. And what that really means is when it all comes down to it, life is very simple. What makes you happy? What makes other people happy? Being kind, that's all that's left to figure out. Forget about all this complex thought about life. And the thing I love about that track is that it goes through loads of different sort of, we're classed as a progressive rock band. We kind of been in this sort of progressive rock world, but really we're just a rock band. But because our songs sort of go through various sort of phases and sections and lots of different atmospheres, I think that's where the kind of prog influences come in. And this is one of them. And in the middle, it's got this riff that gets really big. It's really good, and I can't wait to play it live. Again, written down low on the baritone.
Okay, Now It's Yours.
So Now It's Yours, that was another sort of life through the lens, world through the lens of my kids. Now It's Yours. This is what you're going to inherit. And but again, that's another song that goes through loads of different sort of styles. Starts off really soft, then goes into this sort of random, sort of heavy middle section. I remember writing this with Gavin at his place, and we came up with this middle section together. Did this solo. There's one thing about this record is a lot more guitar solos. Right. So as I kind of spent years not doing guitar solos, so I thought, no, guitar solos, no, we don't do solos anymore. And then I realized, actually, guitar solos, if they're really well constructed, are really good. I'm not a fan of just whittling up and down, probably because I can't. Yeah, I can't whittle, so that's the thing. But it's a case of really constructing the guitar solo, so you can they're kind of hooks, the solos. So I really enjoy that. It's a really good fun to play live as well.
Yeah. Every Trace of Us.
So Every Trace of Us, again, that's kind of a mental health kind of song. Battling the modern world, and you kind of look. It's obviously it's in the forefront now. It's okay to talk about mental health. I'm not saying that I have those issues, but I see it around me. So I was like writing about that kind of every trace of us, your soul, your mind, and how it can be attacked on a daily basis. So yeah, that was what that track, and again, that was written, face to face with Gavin, old school writing session.
Great. And the album finishes with To Forget.
Yeah, and that's a really, when you kind of go through all these songs, I realize, how quite, serious all the subject matter is, and because because the songs are really good fun. They're really good fun to play. But the subject matter is sort of quite, dark. And this one is about, living with tragedy, with, just coming to terms with being human, you know, because humans have to live with all kinds of bad things like loss and tragedy and things like that, all of us. And the older you get, the more of that you're going to experience. And so there's this line in there which is remembering is not easy, but to forget is impossible. So it's that kind of deep living with the difficult sort of aspects of life, but it's still positive. You know, that's life. You know, we're all in the same boat. We all have to deal with it, but but at the end of the day, most of us love life and embrace it, and would just want as many days on this earth as possible. So it's, you know, it's a contradiction, that, but you know, it's a celebration of life, really.
Very cool. Now I understand you've got a UK and Europe tours planned, mate. So tell us about them.
Yeah, so we're going off for 4 weeks, and we're a bit worried because it's the first tour we've done post-pandemic. The last tour we did was mid-pandemic, so we were doing some shows in Germany where people had to take a test in order to get into the venue. It was really messed up. So yeah, it was terrible. But still, people were so desperate to come to a gig that they were prepared to, you know, to do it, to queue up, get a test, and actually watch. But the shows have kind of had that kind of weird vibe. Yeah. So it's really nice to come out post-pandemic, and we're looking at the sales, and it's already the biggest selling tour we've ever done. So we're looking forward to it. Obviously, every time we announce a tour, loads of people say, "Come to Australia," you know, and you know, so. And I've just noticed, I've just seen all the photos of, because of my friend Jonas in Catatonia, he's currently touring Australia, and it looks brilliant. The crowds look great. So, you know, Australia and New Zealand, it's definitely on our radar to come out.
Fantastic. All right, Bruce. Well, thanks very much for your time tonight, mate. The new album, It Leads to This, is out now, and you'll be getting around the world very shortly. So, put your show somewhere near you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No worries at all, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day.